Hi, hello, my name is Gomer Joseph. I hope you've all been having a great day so far. Welcome back to another True Crime Tuesdays video. If you are new, I welcome you. Today, I'll be discussing the unsolved disappearance of Dulce Maria Alavez. This is one case which bothers me to this day, and I'm baffled at how much time has passed and that this baby still hasn't been found. The sad thing is that I keep seeing her face on magazines of missing children, and it frustrates me that she's still out there somewhere, yet no one seems to know where she's been all this time. I encourage you all to do your own research with this case and not to just look at my video for all of the information. Here we go. Dulce Maria Alavez was born on April 25th, 2014 in Bridgeton, New Jersey, to parents Noema Alavez Perez, who actually had Dulce when she was 14, and father Edgar Perez. And a couple years later, Dulce would have a little brother named Manny. So soon after Dulce was born, Noema would get help from her mother to raise Dulce. Edgar, who, again was Dulce's father, he unfortunately wouldn't be able to have been able to help raise Dulce as she was growing up because he would be deported by the time that she was like 4 years old. So I'm unsure whether he came to the country illegally or if he had a work visa which expired. All I know is that he was deported. So as for Dulce, as for her personality, she was known to be spunky, sweet, loving. She was a girl who enjoyed Disney, especially the movie Moana, and she loved giving hugs and kisses. On September 16th, 2019, after coming back from school with her aunt, who was Naoma's younger sister, who happened to be around the same age as Dulce, Dulce's mother, Noema, also brought her son Manny along. So they went to the gas station to get ice cream, and it was actually the kids who wanted to go to the park, so Noema decided to go ahead and take them to the park. Now, mind you, Noema is 5 months pregnant at this time. At the park, Dulce and her younger brother Manny played with each other at the playground, but while they are playing at the playground, Noema and her younger sister stayed in the car while her younger sister was doing homework and Noema was scratching out lottery tickets. Later on, as Noema and her sister are inside of the car, she would receive news that no parent would ever want to hear. So upon further research, I heard that there were actually two different reports. So just bear with me. So there's one report where Manny is said to have been running up to the car, and here's the thing about the car. The car was 30 yards away from the playground, but this one report says that when Manny ran up to the car, Dulce wasn't with him. But there was another report, which Noema stands by to this day. So Noema states that she saw neither Manny or Dulce when she looked at the playground. So she and her younger sister got out of the car looking for the kids. Not long after getting out of the car, they were able to find Manny, who was actually nonverbal. So they find him crying. And again, they only find Manny, but they don't see Dulce around. So Noema asks her son where Dulce was. But all Manny could do, again, since he's nonverbal, all he could do was point at some building at the playground. Now, first, Noema assumes that they were playing hide and seek, but Noema, when she was trying to go ahead and still look for Dulce, she just could not find her daughter. Before Noema called the police, she would call her brother and ask him to come to the park and bring the dog with him to help find Dulce, but they just could not locate her at all. Noema would proceed to ask girls who were playing basketball at the park if they saw Dulce. Now, one of them stated that they saw Dulce run near the building and a black man walking behind her. and another one said that they saw a red van driven by a Hispanic man. Noema, who I can imagine, she is getting all of this information. She's running out of options and scared to death since she cannot find her oldest child. So then she finally decides to call the police. Here's my 2 cents on this. When I first heard about this case, I will honestly say that Noema did seem sketchy to me to let her 2 young kids play alone in the playground while she's yards away. Not only that, but I did hear that, at least at first, initially I heard that she was in the car with a boy, but as I did research, it turns out that she was in the car with her sister. At the time that I first heard about this case, I did not hear the 911 call that Noema made, but when I listened to it, by the sound of her voice, it seemed like she was pretty frantic. Plus, it doesn't seem like Noema would have gone all of this way if she were fully responsible for Dulce's disappearance. My guess is that she just trusted the environment that she's in, but I wouldn't say that being yards away from her child makes her this terrible mother. Like, at least she called the police, unlike some other people who decide to wait a month to call the police and decide to go partying for a month while their child is going missing. But I'm trying not to rant right now. I'm going to go ahead and stick with the topic. So, as for Noema, I just truly believe that she was just certain that her kids would be fine exactly where they were. Don't get me wrong, I do not condone what she did at all by allowing her kids to play outside while she was in the car. Like, I'm not even a parent, and honestly, I cannot fathom being yards away from my child, and especially being in a car while my kids are outside of the car, far away. In fact, her mother had full custody of Dulce because she felt like Noema wasn't mature enough to take care of Dulce on her own. So I also had to take into account that Noema was like 19 years old with 2 kids and carrying another child in her womb. To this day, like, she regrets staying in the car and wishes that she was in the park with the kids. Because I honestly feel like parents do this, like, they just decide to just stay in one place and are just 100% sure that their kids will be fine. But it's like, I just feel like they don't do it to be neglectful. I just feel like they just do it because they just don't really pay attention to stories like Dulce's. Because I can go ahead and think back to a few years ago when I was working retail, and around the same time that this case happened, actually, I'm trying to go ahead and think of whether it happened after I heard about the case or before I heard about this case. But I noticed like a father like lying on a bed with his phone while one of his daughters, he had like 2 daughters, while his youngest daughter was like walking a bit too far away from him and the family. So I see this, like, my true crime brain just goes wild, and I just walked up to him explaining that his daughter was walking a bit too far. Like, she was literally like saying hi to a stranger. As for the stranger, like, she looked to be like, from what I remember, it was like a grandma. She looked like to be like a harmless grandmother with her grandchild. But just saying hi to a stranger was enough for me to just inform her parents about what was going on. Long story short, he gets his daughter's attention, but that just goes to show, even though you feel like your kids are in a safe environment, do not trust that environment. Parents, I am pleading with you. Please, please, please keep a close eye on your kids. This is not the 80s or 90s anymore. Even then, like, even at the 80s and 90s, it was like really risky to let your kids roam on their own, because we are living in very, very evil days. These are some evil, wicked days that we are living in. So please keep a close eye on your kids, especially when they are as young as Dulce. Now back to Noema calling the police for help. So the police get the news of this. They arrive pretty fast, and they arrive with dogs to go ahead and search for Dulce, but they could not find anything. They found nothing. So soon, volunteers would do their best to help with the search for Dulce. Here's what boggles my mind. What boggles my mind is that an Amber Alert for Dulce didn't appear until the following day. Now, as for the Amber Alert, I'm gonna have to go ahead and look at the Amber Alert story again and refresh my memory. But I believed that the Amber Alert was to go off as soon as the police were notified. Correct me if I'm wrong. Time was not on the police's side. Time was not on Dulce's family's side. The more that she went missing, the more risky the case became. So the investigators, they had to really try to see if they could add things, fit the puzzle together. So the investigators believe that Dulce's kidnapper most likely was a resident of the area and knew how to take her without being noticed like that. Now, the investigators have this theory, but there are people that they have to talk with. So first, the police were questioning Dulce's mom. They proceeded to question family members, then went on to question nearby sex offenders. They would check like hundreds of vehicles and countless areas, but this little girl could not be found. Here's what I find to be frustrating. Like, the case is already frustrating enough, but what frustrates me even more is that people in the area were afraid that if they came forward with any information, then they would risk being deported. From what I gathered around this, Bridgeton, New Jersey area, there were a number of illegal immigrants who were residing there. My thing is that there's a little girl who is missing, and no one knows for sure whether she is alive or dead. The police stated that they wouldn't ask people whether they were legal immigrants or not. Now, here's my thing on it. If this country only made the legal immigration process easier, in my opinion, we would not be having these issues in the first place. But because the legal immigration process is so difficult, we have this issue. But, the police, they wanted to know, like, they wanted people to go ahead and, give in their thoughts. They wanted people to really share what they knew, because they knew that any small detail matters, especially in the case of a missing child. No one should ever have to let fear stand above doing what is right, ever. The police also looked into contacting Dulce's father, Edgar. And again, Edgar is in Mexico. He was deported to Mexico. So the FBI was able to track him down. They spoke to him. I don't know exactly what they were speaking to him about, but whatever they asked Edgar, it seems like there was nothing tying him to Dulce's disappearance. Almost a month after Dulce vanished, there was a police sketch of a man who the police wanted to get in contact with. The description of the sketch is that this person is most likely Hispanic, in his mid-30s. He was seen wearing a black shirt, orange sneakers, red pants, and a baseball cap. Dulce's case would soon get the attention of Dr. Phil. Now, I saw this video on YouTube. I can go ahead and leave the YouTube link in the description box below if you want to go ahead and see this interview. And while Dr. Phil was talking to Dulce's mother, Noema, she received a lot of criticism for the lack of emotion that she was showing. But here's my thing about, her emotion, because, as I did further research with this case, I looked at recent news segments, and in these recent news videos where vigils are held for Dulce, you can see that Noema has more emotion. And this is only my opinion, but I'm just assuming like maybe she is just showing more emotion publicly due to the fact that it's been like 3 years since her daughter has been missing, and I can imagine that as a parent, 3 years feels like an eternity without your child, and especially not knowing where they are. Dr. Phil pretty much called her out on it, like called her out on her lack of emotion. Now, Noema's response was that she did not show that much emotion, or she just didn't cry in front of others like that, which I can relate to. Like, I rarely ever cry in front of other people when, I just, have a lot of emotion inside of me. Like, it's just very uncomfortable for me to cry or just to be very emotional in front of other people. Now, Dr. Phil, he gave Noema the chance to plead for Dulce to come back in Spanish. And when Noema was pleading for Dulce in Spanish, you could hear and see you can hear the emotion in her voice and see the emotions in her eyes. Because here's my thing about it. When you're bilingual, because they're Hispanic, so when you're bilingual and English isn't your first language, you have to really think about and concentrate on what you're saying when you have to respond back in English. Dr. Phil would also proceed to ask Noema if she had any theories on who took Dulce, and Noema, she stated that she felt this old friend of hers was a bit sketchy because he tried getting involved with her and she would constantly have to reject him, but it doesn't seem like anything really came of this. As the search for Dulce continued, thousands of tips would come in, but out of the thousands, there was this one very interesting tip. There were 3 sketchy letters that were found in Ohio. They were in a library, an ice cream shop, and a racetrack or casino. The thing about these 3 letters is that they all had the same handwriting, but unfortunately there was no progress or any more information that came about these 3 letters which pertain to Dulce's disappearance. As of today, Noema and the rest of the family continues to work hard to find Dulce, holding on to hope that she's alive. Now, if you're watching this video and you have any information at all, please be a snitch. Call 911 or the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, which is 1-800-843-5678. There is currently a $75,000 reward. It's been 3 years since Dulce has been missing, and I cannot imagine what her loved ones are going through. I pray that they would seek God in all of this and that God would comfort them. Most of all, I'm praying that God provides them with the answers that they have been desperately searching for all of this time. Her younger brother is someone that I pray for especially. One of his earliest memories might forever be his sister going missing, and it just breaks my heart to think of the trauma that he bears to this day. The God that I serve, the God of the Bible, is an all-seeing God. He knows exactly what happened to Dulce that day and knows exactly where she is. I thank you all for taking the time in the day to watch this video. If you did like this video, please feel free to hit the like button. If you have any thoughts on this case at all, please leave your thoughts in the comment section below. If you'd like to see more videos from me, please feel free to subscribe and click the bell to be notified about the next video. If there's a certain true crime case that you'd like me to cover, go ahead and let me know. I will see y'all for next True Crime Tuesdays, and I will talk to y'all later.